3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome, everyone. I am meteorologist Andrew Brightman here on Queen City News Plus. We are introducing a new show. It's called Ground Control. We're going to be talking all things outer space and human space exploration. We're really excited for you to be joining in with us, and I have a co-host who's going to be joining with me on a lot of these episodes. My good co-worker, colleague, and I like to call him a friend, Matt Campbell. Matt, you were really passionate about space as well, aren't you?
From very, very early. When the Chinese invented, gunpowder and stuff like that. Yes, yeah.
You look really good for about 800 years old.
Thank you
I need
very
your
much,
skincare routine, Matt. But for me, it's just something from a young age. You talk about certain influences you get from your parents, and just something with my dad. He got me a telescope when I was about 6 or 7 years old. We'd go outside, we'd find the moon, and just look at the moon and just imagine that. And also, being a young, impressionable child, certain movies, Apollo 13 comes to mind, classic mid-90s cinema. Don't you love it? And then also, movie, we were talking about this before we started, with Deep Impact, just being a fellow kid astronomer, finding a comet that's coming to potentially end all life on Earth. It's just, I don't know. It spoke to me, Matt.
Yeah, and because I'm much, much older, one of the things I liked was Robert Heinlein. Science fiction writer, and he was writing some of the first books about exploring space, and just a really, and of course, one of my favorite movies, Marooned from 1968.
Really?
Yes, I would recommend that.
Okay.
It's bootlegged on YouTube, so I recommend watching it there.
Okay.
Free.
Okay.
Sorry,
So,
movie studios.
not 2001: A Space Odyssey, if we're talking about movies
You
from
know
the
what?
60s.
That it was okay. It was good. I liked it, but it wasn't my fave.
Gotcha. And, as we think forward here, one of the things I wanted to start this show with you, Matt, is that, for the first time, if you can believe, in over 50 years, humans are going to be leaving low Earth orbit in 2026. It's just really something incredible to think about. And as someone, I'll say not older, a little more seasoned than me, Matt, did you ever think that, just as someone who's always been fond of space and humans, I think it's a really uniting thing as a human space exploration. Do you really think it would be over 50 years from Apollo 17 coming back to Earth?
I don't think it should have been.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense in a political sense because it's hard to put that much money into it, and that was the problem that ended the Apollo program back in the late 60s, early 70s, because of all the money, and people thought, well, we could put this someplace else. But our future is not just on this planet.
No, and I totally agree with that. It's just one show that I've been watching recently I really enjoy is the Apple TV
For All Mankind.
For All Mankind, because it makes such a great point where probably the worst thing that ever happened to people who human space exploration, if you want to go farther and farther into the solar system and into outer space, was that the U.S. won the space race to the moon and that the Soviets basically just gave up because there was no. I've seen this online. People talk about geopolitical forces acting on each other, causing us to do something. Because it's not a money-making operation going to the moon. It's purely for national pride and geopolitical reasons. So when you're the only game in town, there's not really someone kind of pushing you to keep going farther and farther.
And they also, the Russians lost their chief designer.
Yeah, that's
died a few years before Apollo. So.
That's true. So I'm curious, what do you think are some of the reasons now that we're going to go back to the moon?
I think it's national prestige. I think it's also commercialization. I think that we can get companies interested in going to the moon because there's a lot of stuff to mine there. And I also think that there's a tiny bit of a space race with China.
Yeah, I totally agree, because most of the things the Chinese have said they're going to be done in terms of landing stuff on the moon, they've done, and it's becoming increasingly likely that sort of those geopolitical forces acting on the U.S. are going to start to come back now as we go throughout the 2020s, and we're going to be really exploring that here on this show, is going back to the moon and potentially beyond here as we look farther and farther out into the 21st century. So I'm really looking forward to exploring that with you, Matt. Now,
It's going to be fun.
it is going to be fun. And coming up after the break, we're talking about fun. There's no other person I'd want to talk about going back to the moon and having a little bit of fun with. We're going to be talking to our chief transportation correspondent, Maykay Beeler. You know her, you love her, and you'll see her here in a moment. We'll be right back on Ground Control. Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back to Ground Control. I am your co-host, meteorologist Andrew Brightman, along with Matt Campbell. We are talking about all things space, what's going on up in the atmosphere. And when we talk about getting off the ground, there's no other person I'd want here with us today than our own chief transportation correspondent, Maykay Beeler. She's everywhere. She's got multiple shows. She's always talking about what's going on with terms of flights out of Charlotte Douglas here. So, Maykay, thank you so much for joining us. We want to talk to you, though, about Artemis.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm delighted to be here. Folks that know me know I'm a pilot. Flown over 40 years, 30 different types of aircraft, professional pilot. Infatuated with all things flying. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be an astronaut, but I didn't think I was smart enough. I was wrong, but I was born a little early. So we want to talk about Artemis. So I grew up with Apollo, and it's hard to believe it's 15 years since Apollo 17, right? I mean, my gosh, why the heck haven't we been back in 50 years? You guys talked about that. Well, we got there, we've done it, we've been there, we beat Russia, that's all that matters. But now it's a whole different world. So Artemis, what an exciting time to be an astronaut. What an exciting time. So as early as 2026, Artemis, which is our moon mission that's really a stepping stone for Mars, right?
Yeah.
In 2026, Artemis 2 is scheduled in February to do a flyby.
Mm-hmm.
Do a flyby. So they're not going to land, they're going to do a flyby. And for those of you who wonder about you call it the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
What's on the far side of the moon? Well, we know we've orbited the moon many times, but there are people that don't understand that.
Yeah. No, yeah, people don't realize that. And also,
we orbit the moon. We know it's on the moon.
Yeah.
So do a flyby. That'll be exciting. And then a year later, how much longer is it going to be before we land on the moon? And it's going to include the first woman and first person of color on the moon's surface. The whole goal of this is to set up a moon base.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do we really want to do that? I mean, we have Native Americans on our planet that, are pissed off that we're using the moon as a junkyard. We're sending stuff up there and leaving it there. Odysseus and all of our rovers, and they're just up there. Now we're going to set up a moon base. So this is all about money.
Yeah.
It's all about money. It's about beating the Russians.
Take a lot of money.
The Chinese. But to be an astronaut, can we talk about what an astronaut is?
We can.
Do we have time to talk about that?
Yeah, we do. The first thing I want to just talk, going back to Artemis here in this upcoming Artemis 2 mission. So basically, this is going to be like an Apollo 8 redux, basically, right?
Yeah.
When they, the famous, like, one of the most famous shots of all time was when Apollo 8's coming back on the moon. You have the Earthrise moment. So are we going to get that again? Can we get it like in 4K or whatever?
Get it better.
Yeah.
Everything's better now.
So we're going to be even further out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's still people who think we never went to the moon.
There are a lot of people who feel that way.
And who knows? Because how did they take that picture? And why are the flags waving? Well, the flags aren't waving. There's no wind on the moon.
There's wire.
Right. It was wire.
Them out.
Right, Matt. It was wire. They tried to make it look like, but there are people who wonder about that.
Yeah. And people do really wonder about that. And so we have this upcoming mission. Like, I'm just so shocked. Like, we were talking about, like, we have never left low Earth orbit for any reason since Apollo 17. And then all of a sudden we've got this, we're going to do it for the first time. I just think it's almost relearning something in a sense.
Andrew did Polaris. Remember Jarek Isaacman? The private astronaut hoping to be the new NASA administrator.
Yeah.
Did he go above low Earth orbit?
I mean,
Did
he
go
went
higher than anybody else since Apollo 17?
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
He went up I think it was like 700 miles above the surface, which is something like double what the
low Earth orbit, Matt, it's like 230 miles. I think our
220.
ISS.
You can almost step on the surface. You're so close to
Right, you're so close to it. Yeah, and I thought what was interesting, you have enough money, you can buy anything, but I thought was interesting about that, and there's so much to talk about. I know you don't want to talk about this, but that he opened the hatch and exposed everybody to that radiation.
Yes. You think about the little things, Maykay. That's why we love you.
Radiation.
They're
They got
Hot
their
Pockets were done.
Right.
So, you know.
And he got out and he looked around and go, oh, Lord, got back in. It's just amazing what is happening now that you can be a private astronaut. And he's very well accomplished. You know, he's a great pilot and nothing taken away from him. But you've got Blue Origin who take the rocket and it goes, whoop,
Yeah,
right?
that's not real. That's not real space to me.
Pilot,
And it
just
looks like something.
goes straight up to where it has no more energy.
This is a PGA. This is a G-rated show.
Okay,
Matt.
we're keeping it. Okay.
And then it comes back down. So here's the deal. Are those people astronauts? Now, remember, Gail King of CBS went up with an all-girl crew.
Katy Perry.
And she came back and said, we're astronauts. Well, as a pilot who has been through years and years and hundreds of thousands of dollars of training and many tears and studies and books to learn how to pilot a plane, you are not an astronaut. You sat in a chair and but we went through training. Yeah, in case there was depressurization, you had to learn. And no offense to Gail and the ladies, I think it's a cool thing. It's so cool. But the definition of an astronaut is to get to that Kármán line, right?
Yeah.
Two definitions. The Kármán line is 62 miles up.
Yep.
If you get there or higher, you're an astronaut. According to the military, they use 55 miles. But I think the definition needs to be more than just the distance. I think a better description for these ladies and all the people who've gone up, including my beloved Captain Kirk, would be space tourists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you agree, Matt?
I agree completely. I think space tourist is a much better term.
Yeah.
Because they're not really doing anything but floating out of the chair for a couple of minutes.
For a couple, yeah.
And I understand that it's scary. And I know it was scary for Gail King. And she really faced a lot of criticism for that. But we would love to do it, right? But we don't know what we would really feel.
How do we get you in one of those rockets, May Kay?
I know. To tell me, I
You know, you're blowing up, so you're becoming big here. We got to get you in. Got to get you to space.
To donate $5 million so we can do that.
I know. At least I'm not too old because we've had 80-year-olds, Wally Funk.
Yeah.
You know, who was a Mercury 13 astronaut.
John Glenn did it.
John Glenn, Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
And another gentleman, he was older. He was an astronaut. Right? There was another gentleman that was in his 80s. So not too old.
You know, and for me, another thing I really thought is like going straight up, not just the Kármán line, but also I think you really got to be a true astronaut. In my mind, you got to achieve you have to get to orbit. You have to
yes, I agree.
Alan Shepard and Gus Grissom might argue with you on that if they were around.
Yeah.
If they're around.
Yeah.
Yeah, God bless Gus Grissom, right?
Yeah.
And that's something, too, that people have to understand. If you want to be an astronaut, even a pilot, you accept the risks.
Yes.
We know that you can go at any point. Anything can happen. You don't want it to happen. You do everything to mitigate the risk. We trust our mechanics and our engineers, but you want to be an astronaut, and we can talk about what it takes to be an astronaut because you want to be one. We want to be astronauts.
Yeah.
I'd rather be a space tourist myself.
You'd rather be a space tourist.
Once upon a time.
Right.
But now I'm happy being a space tourist.
Right. And I kind of feel that way, too, just because I've aged out. I would have liked to fly the Virgin Galactic little plane.
Yeah.
That went off on the belly of a plane, of a rocket, and then it fell down and it glided back to Earth. I would have loved to have flown that. But anyway.
No, we're gonna get you on. We're gonna get you. You're gonna be a space tourist to the moon one day, May Kay.
Well, if I live that long, how long is it going to take? I'm going to ask you guys. Really, are we going to do a flyby in 26 in February?
I mean, they pushed it up for and again, we wanted to start the show because I just think this is such a big moment. Like this is
big,
like breaking new ground when it comes to space exploration has really just been in stasis now for over 50 years, and this is going to be the first time we're sort of reigniting something and then going farther out into the cosmos.
That we have in 50 years.
That we haven't. In 50
that we know of.
That we know of, and we're gonna. We were talking about this upcoming Artemis mission coming up after the break. We're going to be talking more about what does it take to actually become an astronaut. May Kay was alluding to, I would have liked to become one. I mean,
you still can.
It's something I like to, fantasize about when I'm maybe a little bit of downtime for me per se. But we're going to be talking more about what it takes to become an astronaut coming up in this next segment of Ground Control. We'll be right back in a moment.
Welcome back to Ground Control. And as you can tell, we are not alone. Andrew Brightman, the host of this show, May Kay Beeler, our chief transportation correspondent. Yes, that was cross-promotion there.
We had to beg her to come on.
Yeah. But it's really good to be back. And I know we're going to be talking about astronauts, how to become an astronaut this segment. But I did want to bring one more thing up about Artemis. One of the neat things about it is that it's going to have part of the space shuttle program in it.
Really? How so?
Yes, because the Artemis launch system, the space launch system, it's going to use parts from the solid rocket boosters that used to put the shuttle up into space. And a lot of the technology is from then.
But isn't it old?
Well, it is old, but I mean, it's been refurbished and it was
I would
reusable.
hope so. I hope there's no metal fatigue.
No, and
You know.
let's watch those O-rings.
Right.
But,
That's right. God help us.
But the neat thing is that there will be pieces of other programs that are going to be part of this system.
That's fast.
So yeah,
That's fascinating, man. No, I did not know that.
that was the only fact I was going to bring today. I'm gone.
No, no, it's so getting back. So thank you for that interesting tidbit here about Artemis. But back here with our chief transportation correspondent, all things above
pilot,
and pilot. That's true.
Worked very hard to be a pilot.
I know you did. And you know what, May-Kay? You still owe me that flight, May-Kay. I'm still waiting on it.
Well, we'll see if you ever get it. You have to earn it.
It's true. I do have to.
I
earn
wanted
it
you
here.
to buy me a kite.
So you said, May-Kay, you've been a pilot. It's true. You're really a trailblazer in this respect. You've been a pilot for over 40 years, and you told me you were saying earlier you really wanted to be an astronaut, and you didn't think you could, but obviously you could have. You just thought you were a little.
It was born later.
Yeah, born later. You were a little early.
Yeah.
But
because back then, Andrew, typically you had to be a test pilot.
Yeah.
Military or a test pilot, and you had to be a guy.
Yeah.
We did have women that tried for the Mercury. I think it was 13, and they trained and they passed all the training. But it's a man's world. It kind of still is, but we girls are getting out there more. But no, I was born too early. But then so back then it was test pilots and really macho people. In 1964, though, NASA decided, well, we need astronauts who are really more like scientists.
Yeah.
So let's expand our search. And so a qualification back then was a scientist or a doctorate in medicine, engineering, or natural science, such as physics, chemistry, or biology. You got to be really, really smart.
Yeah.
Okay. Today we have mission specialists. We have there are all sorts of different roles you can play. So it's really different now. Back in the day, you had to have perfect vision.
Now there are people who go up and wear glasses.
Right.
Really?
I don't know
As long as
you
it can be corrected to 20/20. I think even 20/40 now.
Okay.
Things have really relaxed. But back in the day, even to be a Delta pilot,
Yeah.
back in those days, it was really, and you couldn't have any heart problems or anything in your history. You have to go through incredible medical.
Once upon a time, to be a Delta pilot, you had to have a Southern accent.
Listen to you, Matt. Oh, goodness. All right. So today, what does it take?
Yeah.
I don't have an age limit on this. And we know that Suni Williams was in her 60s. And
May-Kay, you can still do this.
I don't think, well, we don't want people to know that I'm older than dirt. But anyway, I
knew dirt.
I aged out of airline flying, went to school at dirt. You knew dirt. She's in her 60s. Remember, she was the Starliner pilot with Butch Wilmore, and Butch Wilmore was in his 60s or almost 60, and he just retired. And I'm waiting for Suni Williams to retire, but she wants to go back. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, but, they've got years of being test pilots. They were like Navy test pilots. They're very smart.
And you were a test pilot yourself as well, May-Kay.
Well, I married one.
Oh, sorry.
Married one. But anyway, I was a test pilot because some planes I flew I'd never been checked out in, and I had to check myself out in them. But anyway, you have to be a U.S. citizen, all right? You have to possess a master's degree. So you and I have talked about this. Yeah. Andrew wants to do this, and he says, well, who's going to pay for the master's degree?
That's right.
I already got all its debt. I don't want my parents to have to pay for it, which is lovely. In a STEM field, including engineering, biological science, physical science, computer science, or math, or you can be a pilot.
Yeah.
And I have the hours to qualify, but all those hours have to be in a jet. Most of mine are in piston and turbine.
Oh, okay.
But I have some time in a jet. So I'm really not quite qualified right now. So I don't think it's going to happen for me right now. And I think that they're not going to take on somebody in their 60s or older to start that. Okay, so start young. You can start in your 30s. So you can do it, Andrew. You can go up and be a meteorologist, but I think you need that master's degree. And look.
It's a lot of calculus, May-Kay.
You have to pass a lot of medicals, psychological, physical. You
That
have to
lets
be
me out.
top shape.
My wife might think I'm a little crazy. So
Right. Well, we know that. And there's
Oh,
and it's
don't we?
extremely competitive. Like to be an astronaut every few years, you can send in a application, and last time there were like 18,000,
wow.
and they pick 10. And you got to have the psychological mindset to could you imagine being stuck on Starliner for 9 months knowing you can't get off?
No, yeah. And so my question is, how did they pick these 4 astronauts that we see here to be on Artemis 2? These are going to be the first astronauts to leave low Earth orbit in over 50 years, Menke.
Yeah.
Christine Koch has got a lot of experience.
Right.
She's also from Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Right. She's from North Carolina. I think you have to jump through a whole lot of hoops. You have to work really hard, folks. Don't kid yourself. I had a friend that said to me, work full time as a pilot and in television. And she said to me, God, you have to work 60 hours a week and you're always flying. I have a horrible job. Who wants to work that hard? Well, honey, you don't deserve to be in command of an aircraft. All right? You don't deserve that. If you want it bad enough, you will work for it, and you must work for this. And it helps to love it.
Yeah.
It helps to love it, to love engineering, to love aircraft, hydraulic system, pneumatic systems, space. You got to love it or you're not going to work hard enough for it. So it really takes dedicated people, knowing that you could lose your life, but you want that. And Suni Williams is a perfect example. She loves being in space.
Yeah.
I'd love to interview Suni. Maybe we can
And
get
of
her.
course, they're big fans of the space ice cream.
Oh, yes, the space ice cream.
Mhm.
See, Matt knows.
Yeah, no, and you're talking about trying to get encouraged. Again, I look at you as someone truly as a trailblazer, Menke. I really do, and I think you really inspire me sometimes. Like maybe I want to go get like my pilot's license one day. It's a lot. But again, you really do inspire me every day, Menke. I don't want to pump you up too much, but how do you think this potential upcoming Artemis 2 mission is going to inspire astronauts in the future to get to as we look to make the program bigger? We want to build a base on the moon, potentially go to Mars. We're going to need a lot more people.
The next generation. So I said before, what an exciting time to be alive.
Yeah.
That this is open to everybody now, whereas when I was young, a child, you had to be a test pilot, you had to be a Chuck Yeager, had to have perfect vision, had to be a man. Right? I mean, things have just changed. What a beautiful opportunity now. If you want it, go for it. It starts with a pilot's license.
Yeah.
It starts with an introductory flight. See if you like it and love it, and then take it further and further. And you can't be afraid to work hard. But if you love it, it's worth it. Because it's such a passion. And how many of us look up at the stars, and we are not alone.
Yeah.
Cross promotion.
Cross promotion. I mean, you're a true pro. You're a true pro, Menke. I really do. I admire you every day, and along with you as well, Matt. But that's
Matt. Yeah. Oh, and you too, Matt.
I do love Matt. Come on, Matt. My biggest joys in life is when I get Matt to laugh at work. Okay.
And Matt is a comedian.
He is a comedian. That's why I got to earn it.
Not professionally
And
yet.
he is an encyclopedia of
He is.
aviation and space information.
A little bit of culture too.
Who was the first scientist to go into space? The first pure scientist to go into space?
Who was it?
Harrison Schmitt.
And
on
actually,
the last moon mission.
yep, that's true. That's the only person
He
who
was
was a test
geologist.
pilot. Yeah.
I thought it was Laika the Space Dog, but anyway, remember we did the story on Laika the Space
Yeah.
Dog?
Yeah.
The first living creature to orbit the Earth.
Yeah, yeah, we're talking humans, but yeah, I guess that's
Yeah,
true. The
Dog.
space dog was not a test pilot, but that's all we got time for here on this first episode of Ground Control. I'm meteorologist Andrew Brightman for my co-host Matt Campbell, and of course, a pilot, 40 years as pilot, our chief transportation correspondent, icon Menke Beeler.
Don't forget she's a pilot.
And yeah, I won't. I won't.
Great darn it.
I
Women
won't
fly.
forget that.
Female
I won't
pilots
forget
rock.
that. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you on the next one.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.